if you sacrifice 1 year of your life, I'll give you $1 million. Would you do it?
In 40 years' time, I'll give you $1 million.
What do you want? What do you want me to do?
Exactly, man.
But then you got boys that are like, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die this year. I'm gonna die. How do you know? How do you fucking know, son?
If you're gonna die, why are you on your computer trading crypto? Go out, live your life, son.
Go for a hike.
Find some dolphins, swim with them.
3, 2, 1.
Welcome back, everyone. We've got an absolute banger of a podcast today. We're talking about why you need your first $10,000 to work.
So with this one, it's thinking about investing, right? You need to have your first $10,000 to work and make you money. So relating it back to the S&P 500, we know the S&P 500 works. It's tried and it's true. We know the S&P 500 works, but so many people, they don't want to invest in it because it seems like it's slow. But historically speaking, 99% of the entire population, they can't beat the S&P 500. It's actually very difficult. And it's just like we've been tricked from all these crypto things and all that stuff, seeing, 1 out of 1 million people, they got lucky and they made $1 million overnight and all of that stuff. And that's brainwashed everybody to thinking the S&P is bad. So what we always promote is don't chase all of these things because eventually it does lead to failure. We've seen many people lose millions of dollars, make millions and lose millions very quickly. We've seen it millions of times it's happened.
It's very similar to like people winning the lottery. They can't repeat winning the lottery again, and then they end up just losing it in like 5-10 years. Yeah. In some cases, with the market cycles, they lose it in the next cycle, and we've seen so many people do that.
Especially with like social media, like we're bombarded with it like almost every single day. It's like one person that's like, oh, I've made $1 million. This is my story. And then just from doing that post, they then get a massive following of people, and then you can't replicate it ever again.
Yeah. I think social media has put a lot of FOMO into people. So if your neighbor makes like $10,000 really quickly, really easily, then you just feel like you're missing out on the action. Yeah. And you want to get in on it, but if you don't know what you're doing, then you're just going to get wiped out. Yeah.
Those social media people, they never talk about how like lucky their situation was. They're always like, look how good I am. Yeah. I made $1 million in 6 days.
Yeah.
And they can't see their own luck.
Yeah.
They're blinded by it a lot of the time.
Yeah. That's pretty deep because like being able to see your own luck is actually a part of like wisdom we talk about. Yeah. It takes a lot of, what would you say, like painful experiences to see how lucky you were?
Yeah. I think like a big thing is like we're watching a thing, it's more complicated, but of Stanley Druckenmiller, a podcast with him. He was one of the best traders, short-term traders of all time. And he made his name based on, what was it, the .com bubble, I'm pretty sure? One of those bubbles, he shorted the top.
The day of.
Literally the day of, and made all of this money. And that's how he made his brand. And I think what he was going through his mind was like, oh, I can see this, this, and this. Valuations are too high. Press the short button. So you're betting that the price will go down. So if the price does go down, you make money. And then it worked. But then after decades, I think he started to realize, oh shit, there's actually a lot of luck in that. Because the saying is, the markets can stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent. So just because it's in a bubble can last. It doesn't have to end the day you figure out it's a bubble. The market doesn't care.
Yeah.
It can keep going. So in that podcast, he doesn't actually admit it. I'm not sure if he has admitted it or not. But it's like he's completely changed his style. And that's why his returns are more like the S&P 500 today. It's because now he can see all the risks he was taking. Man, I bet you, he doesn't say this, but he got lucky on finding the top. It was 100% luck. If the market went up for another month, he probably got wiped out. And we never even heard of Stanley Druckenmiller.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'd be interested, how many people did that actually happen to on that day?
Yeah.
Oh, heaps, man.
Exactly that we've never heard of.
Yeah.
They had the same goddamn conclusion, damn well near the same conclusion, but their timing was off. And that's like back to your point. The market doesn't give a shit.
Yeah.
Doesn't even care if you're right.
Yeah. That's where like that $10,000 that you invest, your first $10,000 that you invest has to work for you.
Yeah.
It's a very simple thing. Like investing in the S&P 500, it's a very, very simple thing. people like Warren Buffett talk about it all the time. He's like, if you don't want to invest in Berkshire, just invest in the US economy. Buy the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it's a very simple thing to do, but people don't want to do it because they can't sit on their hands.
Yeah.
And it's important you start with that because it's based on time with compound interest. If you invest $10,000 once off, let's say you get that in before the age of 20, ideally, then in 40 years' time, that's going to turn into $450,000. So imagine that, 10 grand, in 40 years, you do nothing, but just wait. That's at an interest rate of 10%, which is roughly what the S&P does. That means you make $440,000 profit, a total of $450K. Now, what we find all the time is, sadly, I've seen many, like personally, it's happened to a lot of people around me where they call themselves entrepreneurs, businessmen, and all of that stuff. And they're like, their mindset was, hey, I'm 25. I'm still young. I'm going to take big risks. I'm going to invest all of my money from my job and do this business. Then it goes under. So now they're back to zero at age 25. Nothing wrong with that. You're still young. Then they go back to work and they start saving the money and they got a new business idea. And they execute that at age 30 and they lose it all again. Now they're back at zero. Now it's getting a bit iffy. You're at 30. Still young. Yeah. Because the average Australian is still around $1,000 to their name at age 30. But then when you do that at 35 and 40 and 55, I've seen people in their 60s and they have failed at that many businesses that they could have literally just worked at a standard job, you know, for 1 year. Because to save $10,000 in Australia, it literally takes 6 months.
Yeah.
At Macca's. They could have just done that at age 18, put in 10K and have $450,000 at the same age.
Dude, most uni students can put in 10K in like 4 or 5 months.
Oh, I know.
My girlfriend is an example. She started from zero. She started working and then in 4 months, literally 4 months, she saved up her first 10K and
that's it.
That was all invested.
Yeah.
Dollar cost averaged.
Yeah, it is insurance to protect your retirement, to protect your livelihood in the long run. Like, if you really want to do this business stuff and you really want to, that's your whole life, no worries, but just get your first 10K in.
Yeah.
Now you're 18 and a half years old. Then start your business, then you got 10K to back you up. Then use your next 10K to start your business.
Yeah.
Start thinking like that.
I have a personal story on something similar to this where, you talk about like everyone thinks they're an entrepreneur. I myself thought I was an entrepreneur about 4 or 5 years ago. Luckily at this time, I had the knowledge of making sure that I have my investments growing as I was trying out something new.
Yeah.
So at the time I was lucky enough to still be employed. So I had cash flow coming in from my job, but then I thought I could create an online business where I would do the drop shipping model. And at the time, like 3-4 years ago, this was the hot trend. I was getting marketed left, right, center. You can easily make 6 figures a month if you just do this drop shipping course. And I got sucked into it and I ended up losing $20,000. But that didn't wipe me out because I already had like 6 figures in the market prior to attempting this. So that was like my defense. That was like my insurance if this failed.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people, they don't have that insurance, that defense.
Yeah.
If this fails, if you're doing something and it fails, you're completely wiped and you go back to zero.
Yeah.
Not only does that hurt your bank account, but it also like psychologically, it affects you because you're going back to where you started.
Yeah. It was like what I was talking about on the last podcast with the gambling. A lot of people like trading in a way is gambling. Cryptocurrency is gambling. A lot of people just go straight to the gambling.
Yeah.
And they don't think about having this protection.
Yeah.
And something safer like the S&P 500.
Yeah. I think I don't know what it is about the younger generation, but they've been growing up with crypto and their like risk tolerance is so damn high, or it seems so damn high, that they're like, they hear these romanticized stories about this one guy who invested $100 and now made $100 million. And they're like, nah, there's no way this is not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's not possible. And in actual fact, 0.1% maybe of people who actually try it might get a win.
Yeah.
It's like probabilities are not in your favor if you're playing the game like that.
That's why like one of our main talking points at Hardcore Headstart that we try to tell people is make sure your first 10K works for you. That way your defense is set up and psychologically you're better off.
Yeah.
We don't want your mental health to deteriorate because your finances are not working.
Then it's going to be tempting. Like if you're starting a business or whatever, to tap into that 10K. You can really easily trick yourself. Oh, but my business isn't an asset too.
Yeah.
You know, when it's not proven yet, it's actually not cash flow positive yet.
Yeah.
And then you have your 10K, then you sink 1K into, oh, so it's just $1,000.
Yeah.
Sink that into my business. You lose it. Oh, but it's a learning experience. And you start brainwashing yourself.
That was me, man.
You know? And then you're back at zero. And then, 6 months of work.
Yeah.
6 months of work.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did learn lessons, but a lot of the time we think it's faster to learn those lessons from online, YouTube, podcasts, books, these type of things.
Yeah.
So you don't have to risk your actual dollars.
Yeah.
Same as like with trading and stuff. Like we say, hey, like imagine there's two types of people that are learning short-term trading, which is harder than long-term investing, right? And one person, they just go ahead, they fund their account with $10,000 and they just do it. Or the other person, they spend $10,000 worth of time studying first. Right? The person that studies first is going to be way more successful.
Yeah.
Like this shit isn't like bloody baseball where you pick up a bat and you swing it.
Yeah.
Right? In that scenario, in that game, it's better to just practice because what can you really learn from a book about how to swing a bat?
Yeah.
You know? So it's like you got to identify your game.
Yeah.
And online you hear both people arguing both stories. It was like, what game are you playing? Is it a game based on intelligence? Then you have to study first. Like if you're going to be a doctor or a brain surgeon, I don't want you practicing on my skull, son.
Yeah.
I like my skull.
Yeah.
No, you're right.
She's a good
got a
skull.
beautiful
Dude,
She's a
skull.
big skull,
Yeah,
son. She's a big skull, man. There's a lot of practice to go into that.
If you practice on my skull, that's it, boys. Read some bloody books first, man, before you chop my skull up.
Preferably.
Don't chop it up, son.
Yeah.
I think one thing is interesting, the mindset that you guys were both talking about then of how important it is your first 10K to work. If it, like what we know about building like habits just in general, applies to even with money is if you get those small wins early and you make sure that wins, like at the age of 15 or 20, you know, you do things the right way, you're like positively reinforcing your brain to continuously do that thing the right way for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
It's much harder for, say, a 30, 40, 50-year-old to start than it is for an 18, 19, 20-year-old.
Yeah.
Like,
For sure.
let alone the returns just from a mindset point of view. They've got ideas, they've got like different habits that they've already built from 30, 40 years of experiences. They think the world works in a certain way. So for you to be able to change your mind at that age, it's incredibly difficult to do. So when you're young, you want to positively reinforce yourself with the right way to do things, and eventually it's going to work out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And saving up the 10K, it's gonna require some sacrifice as well. So I reckon our advice would be to like make sure you watch our podcasts, or, you know, even not just our podcast, but like just watch like finance podcasts. Because even me, when I was saving, I had you boys like talking to me. I had the community with you guys. When my girlfriend was saving, she had me.
Yeah.
So just make sure you're always like increasing your knowledge as well as saving.
For sure, man.
Because there will be points where it's like kind of boring.
I think the other thing is like sometimes people, they don't like the S&P 500 because it's boring, because it seems easy, but they don't realize that's the vessel. The thing that's hard is get the money in.
Yeah.
That's the hard part.
Yeah.
You're looking at the wrong thing.
Yeah.
For sure.
Who cares about the S&P?
And getting the money in, even though the market's not going up,
Yeah.
that's even harder.
Yeah.
Because like the strategy, if everyone can say in hindsight, oh, I should have bought the bottom.
Yeah. Oh,
Why
yeah.
didn't you buy the bottom?
Yeah.
Like the bottom isn't like we're in a bear market now.
Yeah.
It's a great opportunity to dollar cost in.
Yeah.
People are not doing it.
Yeah.
And we saw a lot of people buying in as it was going up. Why aren't you buying when it's going down?
Yeah, that's it.
You know?
Biggest investing fallacy.
Yeah.
And it is really important, like, you know, you focus on, eventually you want to try and beat the S&P 500 if you choose to do that. But I understand you're going down a bloody rough road and it's going to take a whole lot of time to be able to beat that. But I see everybody, they're just like, you know, got massive ego where they're comparing like, oh, man, I made 20% this year. You know, I made 30, I made 40, I made 100%. And they're comparing like, oh, you know, the S&P's bad. But over time, it will go under that 10% most likely.
Yeah.
And so I want to see people with their egos instead use it more usefully, which is, mate, I invested $25,000. Talk about the dollars invested in, not talk so much about like the percentage you made on a given year.
Yeah.
Because in actual fact, in your later years, that dollar figure is only going to be the only thing you actually care about. It's like that's where you spend. when like you fucking you made all this money,
Yeah.
you know, or you didn't make all this money, how you actually use you have to use the dollars.
Yeah.
You know, you're gonna have to spend the dollars. So if you made 100% on $1, you know, she's sick.
Yeah.
That's good.
Exactly.
But like the dollar figures is what counts.
Yeah. It's like 100% on $100 is equivalent to 10% on $1,000, right?
Better way to say
The
it.
thing is, the 10% is more stable long term.
Mhm.
The 100% is not as stable long term. You cannot do 100% long term for 40 years. 10% you can do for 40 years with the S&P 500.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
right.
yeah.
I just want to go over some numbers as well here. So, like we'll say in the beginning, $10,000 once off at 10% for 40 years is $450,000. I chose the 40 years number because that's like age 60. And I think that's a really good retirement age. But, you know, our brains as humans, we always think in a negative manner. So you're going to start thinking, 60 is too old. You know, it's only $450,000. I'd like to think in a positive way. That's only $10,000. You know, that's $10,000.
Yeah.
Once if you put $100,000 in, $200,000 in, you know,
A lot of people, they comment on our posts, like when we say you can turn $10,000 into 91 million
at 20%.
at 20% interest rate for 50 years,
Yeah.
right? If you don't touch the 10,000, it'll turn it into 91 million. A lot of people comment on our posts saying, well, how do you enjoy the money? It's like, it's not locked up. Like you can access those funds at any time along the way.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you've only put in $10,000.
Yeah.
You've got money coming in from your job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the point of that is to try and show you the potential.
Yeah.
Like, okay, at 30 years, how much have you got?
Yeah.
Then you can start using some of it. Like, it's to show you what's actually possible.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't show you like how to actually use it.
Mm.
So it's a fucking, she's a short. She's 32nd, mate. What
It's
do you
hard to
want?
explain it in 30 seconds.
What do you want?
The thing is, the attention span's even getting worse now. So I have to like compress it down to 15 seconds.
Yeah.
How do you tell the whole thing in 15 seconds?
All right, this is kind of out of the blue of what we're talking about today, but TikTok is, I think attention's gotten so bad that people will put interviews on half of the TikTok and then like gameplay of GTA on the bottom.
Yeah, I've seen
yeah.
So
that.
people can watch this shit while they're fucking listening. I'm like,
That's crazy.
what is wrong with you boys? Anyway, back to the numbers.
But yeah, and another thing is like, say when we say $10,000 invested once off, you could literally do that in 6 months. Like imagine you're an 18-year-old and like, but I want a car. Yeah, make another $10,000. You could make both of those. You
Yeah,
make
yeah.
20 grand in
Yeah,
1
yeah.
year. Half of it went to the,
Yeah.
you know, S&P 500. Half went to the car.
Yeah.
It's not, you know.
You've made $10,000. Now you prove to yourself you can make another $10,000.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not like, mate, I make 10 grand. I give up a lot, boys. Pack it up. I'm going home, boys.
It's like-
Hey, I got some more numbers. So again, $10,000, 10%, 40 years is 450 grand. Age 60, it comes by quicker than you think. And you look at 60-year-olds, they look pretty decent. Like, you know, they with technology and all of that, if you take care of yourself, 60 is young, man. Next number is $25,000. So imagine you just double it, you know, slightly more than double. $25,000. I chose that number because that's the amount I saved right at the beginning.
Yeah.
So I was making $21 an hour as a Nando's store manager, working 70 hours a week. So I'll get roughly, you know, the hours were, they would fluctuate a bit, but I would make on average $1,400 a week. Tax is $400. Bills and all of that stuff would set me down to another $500 in expenses. That would leave me with $500. $500 every single week for a whole year. It's $25K. So 1 year of that, $25K at 10% for 40 years again equals 1.1 mil. You know, it's 1 year of your life.
Yeah.
At the lowest income, $21 an hour.
Yeah.
You know, no university degree, no nothing.
The best part of that, it's like S&P 500 has such a proven track record for like 40, 50 years, right? You're guaranteed to make in the range of 7 to 10%, right? It's like, it's almost guaranteed you're going to make a mil by the time you're 60.
Yeah.
Versus if you try to like go with the trend, find the next hot thing, try to flip your money and then take it out and then put it somewhere else, try to flip it again. It's so much more work. It's like, you're doing no work here.
Yeah, so it's 25 grand to 1.1 mil.
Yeah.
So what's the profit on that? It's like $1,075,000 profit. It's a big return.
Yeah.
So imagine the other guys that are failing at business their whole life and you're 50 and you still have nothing to your name.
Yeah.
How do you make 1.1 mil in 10 years?
Yeah.
You need the time to make money.
Unless you're Colonel. Unless you're the Colonel.
Yeah.
You find some revolutionary recipe, secret herbs and spices.
But again, like coming back to stories, those are the types of stories that can mess our brain up. Because like, mate, the Colonel did it. We're not going to be the Colonel, son.
Shout out to the Colonel.
The Colonel's already done it.
Yeah.
We're good boys. We got chicken.
Yeah.
She's sick, bro. The
It's
chicken
like-
is amazing.
It's
We
like the
already
invention
got
of
it.
it's like the invention of fire. Like you don't need to make fire again.
Yeah.
I don't need half as good chicken. Off.
So what we're really getting at as well is like understanding the risks. Like one of the risks is execution risk. If you're trying to execute a business, it might never actually happen.
Yeah.
So to put your whole entire life on, mate, if the Colonel could do it, I can do it too.
Yeah.
It's good to think like that.
Yeah.
Sure.
But don't bet your whole life on it.
Yeah.
You know, have a bit of insurance. Put 10,000 in the S&P, 20,000 S&P.
Yeah.
Do both at the same time. Work on your business and keep them as two different lanes.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing. It's like that's what we did as well. Like we spent 2 or 3 years doing the dirty jobs,
Yeah.
like jobs that people can't be fucked doing. That doesn't look sexy from the outside, but we did that so we can set our future up.
Yeah.
And the rest of our life we can do whatever we want.
Yeah, we went pretty hardcore at the start.
Yeah.
Like some people, when they see us now, they're like, "Oh man, you guys spend a lot of money on food. You guys eat a lot of food." I'm like, "Mate, we weren't like this.
Yeah.
We were saving like 90% of our income at the start,
Yeah.
just so that we could enjoy food now.
Yeah.
You know, we were eating tuna cans, boys.
80 cent.
It
80
is.
cent
It
tuna.
is good to have, like, when you've got such a easy vehicle like the S&P 500, your returns are actually dependent on the amount of work you want to do and how willing you are to sacrifice. Like, dude, those numbers get pretty intense.
Yeah, yeah. And then I'm pretty sure the year after that,
Mm.
it's like what is that? Passively more than 100,000.
Yeah, it's because it'll be
at
like
10%. Yeah.
Yeah.
you would have 1.1 million, then 10% of that.
Yeah.
110 grand coming in.
Yeah.
And then understanding the way the tax system's set up. It's made by the rich for the rich.
Mhm.
So if you earn 110 from your job, you get taxed harder.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know, you pay way less tax when you make it through investments.
Yeah.
And there's ways we'll talk about later where in other podcasts, you don't even need to pay the tax.
Yeah.
You know, there's ways to get around it.
And to clarify, you did nothing.
You just worked your ass off for 1 year. 1 year. Saved 25K for 1 year.
It's like if someone came to you and said, if you sacrifice 1 year of your life, I'll give you $1 million. Would you do it?
In 40 years' time, I'll give you $1 million.
What do you want? What do you want me to do?
Exactly, man.
But then you got boys that are like, "Oh my, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die this year. I'm gonna die." How do you know? How do you fucking know, son?
If you're going to die, why are you on your computer trading crypto? Go out, live your life, son.
Go for a hike.
Find some dolphins, swim with them.
Oh my, I'm dying. I'm dying.
Mate, you're 20 years old.
Dude, the
you got
same
70 years left.
the same boys saying, "Oh, I'm gonna live my life or die," are in the back of goddamn some Melbourne club, just
Yeah.
like, what the fuck is going on? Shit don't make sense, son. You can't just be going. And then want fucking your whole life to be some hippie fucking roses and shit,
Bro.
What?
How does that happen? Oh, one day they're like, "Oh mate, I'm dying, mate, I'm dying." Next day they're like, "Oh,
They're back, boys.
we're back.
We're back, boys.
I'm alive again, boys."
Dude, you have a little bit too much fun. You're like, I'm never gonna die. I'm all good. Dude, you become a fucking god, boys.
Oh, man. I can't wait to edit this, boys.
Dude, I apologize for your ears immediately.
I'll go over a couple more numbers, all right?
Oh, the numbers, man. I
So-
love this.
Hey,
So now the next one,
let's go quant.
$25,000 once off, S&P 500 10% per year, 40 years, but this time you add investments to it. Each week you put in $100. That's it, bare minimum. Turns out to be 3x the other guy. You would make 3.4 million. You know, $100, son.
Is that $100 a month?
$100 a week.
A week. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 25,000 once off, S&P 500 10%, $100 a week, 3.4 million. And then if you're looking at, you know, like we believe it is good to think about bigger numbers eventually if you want to go down that path. If you can get it up to 20%, 10K, 20%, 50 years, 91 million. It's insane.
I was reading the book, The Psychology of Money, and there was I think he was just like a regular cleaner, and he was working for like 50 years, and all he did was what you were saying there. Like he just invested passively into the market for like his whole career. Yeah. By the time he retired and passed away, he gave $2 million to his family, and then he had a total of $8 million by the time he passed away, and he gave $6 million to charity. So he even by doing regular jobs like a cleaner, you're still able to do like philanthropy in the future. Like he set himself up really nicely, and people were surprised, like, oh, how was he a millionaire? Man, he did something simple like that for his whole career.
And the one of the big points is as well is like, it was simple, but he had to say no to like all of these different hot trends. Imagine how many trends he had to say no to.
Yeah.
Heaps of them.
Yeah. So just to sum up, so just doing that one thing, like having that protection.
Yeah.
Like you said, you can get 91 million.
Yeah. That's it. Maybe another thing is like what they call it in the investing world. We've got to say is it's like the core.
Yeah.
So core, like big circle, and satellite strategy. Satellite's a little small thing. So it's like kind of like, I don't know, like the moon and like a little satellite around the moon. So you can say you want to have your moon is like the S&P 500 or something really safe. And then you can mess around with little satellites. If the satellites start working, you can prove that they're way better than the S&P 500, then start funneling your money there.
Yeah.
But it takes time, and you need multiple years of evidence to prove to yourself that satellite strategy is better than the core strategy of the S&P 500.
Yeah. And
you
the allocation there?
What's that?
The allocation of the core?
I'd start with 99% S&P, 1% the satellite. You know, like you could even do 100% S&P 500, 0% the satellite, and just play around with the trading accounts that they give you.
Yeah.
You know, the demo accounts.
The paper trading.
Yeah, paper trading. You don't need to use real money.
Yeah.
And maybe one last thing is talking in terms of data and stuff like that, and to see if you actually have a system that works. Normally what they say is you want to have 20 pieces of evidence at the absolute minimum and get a strategy from that. So you need to be able to replicate it 20 times in a row. If after 20 tries, it's still giving you a certain result, then the odds are it's decent. But imagine if you execute a strategy just 3 times, you know, the market only goes up and down or sideways. You could get lucky 3 times. It's like flipping a coin. So anyone can flip a coin, get heads 3 times in a row. But it's hard to get heads 20 times in a row. Or it's even harder to get heads 100 times in a row. So the odds are, if you can, you know, found a way to magically get heads a lot and you did it 1,000 times in a row, it's probably a decent strategy there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching and listening. Please go follow the rest of our socials. We got Instagram, we got TikTok. They're both flying. We're putting out ridiculous shorts from this podcast and other shows coming soon. Share this with one friend that's saying that he wants to live life to the fullest, but he's actually in the back of the club. Make sure you send it to him. Send us his reaction. Back her up.
pack it up.
Pack it up.
Thank you for listening.